Our feature story today takes us to Missouri, where a statewide program is working to increase the quality of that state's replacement heifers. Show Me Select plays off the state's well-known motto. With more than 100,000 heifers enrolled, Market to Market's Paul Yeager says many Missouri cattlemen are believers. Some herds have even shortened their calving season to only 2 weeks.
America's cattle herd is smaller than it has been in 63 years, but the number of young females being kept for breeding is on the rise. The Agriculture Department reports the nation's farmers and ranchers kept nearly 5.5 million beef heifers for breeding this year, up nearly 100,000 from last year. And in anticipation of rebounding cattle numbers, a handful of states have added or are planning heifer improvement programs, such as one began 17 years ago in Missouri.
You know, we're at a very fortunate time relative to having the program in place, given where the cattle industry's at and the demand for heifers, because there's going to be significant demand for good quality replacement heifers.
In the early 1990s, Patterson established a single county program in Kentucky where cattle producers were worried about low pregnancy rates and calving difficulty among their heifers.
You know, now it would seem to be a fairly simplistic set of requirements that more or less encompassed everything from the time a heifer was weaned from her mother on up through her first breeding season and then subsequently.
Patterson believed the University of Missouri Extension's statewide network of livestock specialists would make a larger scale effort possible. So a few years later, he brought the concept with him to the #2 beef cattle producing state, setting up the Missouri Show Me Select Replacement Heifer Program.
We eliminate heifers right up front that aren't going to succeed. Some of the top cattle economists say it takes us 5 or 6 years to pay for a heifer.
Heifers remaining in the program are eligible to be sold at Show Me Select auctions. In November and December of 2013, bred heifers in those sales sold for an average of more than $2,100. Heifers in Oklahoma City, the location the federal government uses to track breeding stock sale prices, brought an average of $1,287 or $900 less. University of Missouri ag economist Scott Brown says the comparison isn't perfect because the federal government doesn't track prices for breeding stock as closely as those of market steers and heifers. But he believes the data from multiple years does point to some added value. Also, comparing Show Me Select heifers with those not in the program reveals how artificial insemination, or AI, and better genetics can increase average sale prices anywhere from 7 to 22%.
In the beef industry, we're looking at about 10% or less of the cattle in the beef industry are artificially inseminated every year, which is extremely low compared to other nations, and even other sectors within the U.S. The dairy industry is almost strictly AI, and we've still been slow to implement it in the beef industry.
Many of the enrolled Missouri farms, 115 as of fall of 2013, kept Show Me heifers for their own herds. That's the case at Crooks Farms near Leeton, Missouri, where 3 families are involved in the cattle business.
You know, we started out with this program just to make a little extra money on as far as selling bred heifers, but it's turned our whole cow herd around because, you know, through AI and being able to get better genetics.
The program's heifers must have pelvic bones of a certain width and height, a mature reproductive system, and have received certain vaccinations. At Crooks Farms, this year's 125 heifers were run through a chute for the usual vaccinations, as well as a pre-breeding exam. The cattle are run through at least 4 more times for placing and later removing implants that regulate progesterone levels, optional artificial insemination, and 1 or 2 pregnancy checks.
It works for some producers, it doesn't work for other producers because it's a lot of extra work, but then when they go to sell them, they get a lot more value added there.
The program prompts cattle producers to add practices they might not have otherwise. At Crooks Farms, they not only added artificial insemination to give themselves more options for sires, but also began implanting the progesterone devices known as CEDARs, or controlled internal drug release inserts, to synchronize their heifers' reproductive cycles. As a result, most heifers will be fertile around the same time, and as a group, they calve within a narrower time span.
When they was bull bred, we was up 45, 60 days at 2 o'clock every night. Somebody was checking the heifers. Now we've got them grouped to where that's a 10, 12, 14-day period, and then we kind of got a slack time.
Statistics suggest those heifers in the program are less likely to need assistance calving.
If we look at national data, typically first calf heifers have an assistance rates of 25 to 30%. In our Show Me Select program, we have that pulled that down into that 8, 9, 10% of assistance rates.
Hiring a veterinarian or AI technician to work on the heifers, as well as the per animal fees, can create new expenses, but beef experts not involved in the program understand why it could lead to a financial gain. Less than 2 years ago, Missouri's Show Me Select spun off a related program, Quality Beef by the Numbers, to track how steers born from the program's females are doing when it comes to meat quality.
We want to trace those animals from conception to carcass.
For Market to Market, I'm Paul Yeager.
And you can watch this story again on Show Me Select on our Farm Week website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. You can also watch Farm Week stories on our Farm Week USA Facebook page and YouTube. We'll also have a link to the Market to Market website where you can see the original story as well and read the script. We are available at twitter.com/farmweek.